I'm Brad King, and this is Stories in Steel. On this episode of Stories in Steel, we join artist Yvonne Mecialis to talk about how her mother encouraged her at a young age to pursue her passion for art. We talk about how she took her dream to master the airbrush to the next level, magazine covers, and what it's like to become one of the most sought-after automotive muralists in the country. Miss Yvonne, good to have you on here.
Thank you for having me.
So, we've been fortunate. Well, I've been fortunate to work with you. You probably not so much to work with me, but we've worked on a lot of projects over the years. Yes. And tag team, I was doing striping, lettering, and airbrush work. Yeah. And you've had your hands in a lot of cool projects over the years. And I'm sure you started kind of like everybody else. Started out when you were a kid, doing different projects, different mediums. What did you start with? I mean, you do a lot of airbrush work now. What did you start with?
Well, when I was a little kid, I was drawing at a young age. Anything crayons, pencils. I learned how to use paints at an early age. My dad was an amateur artist, and so I watched him. He would draw and paint a lot at home. So I picked up a lot just from watching him. And so I learned, the eye-hand coordination. I would look at a picture and copy it and all that sort of thing. And I just had a natural knack for it. And I knew that was something I wanted to do later in life. I just wasn't sure how to make money doing it. But I knew that I want to be an artist. I have an ability and I want to use it. So I went on, when I was in 5th grade, my mother enrolled me in a private oil painting class. So I learned how to mix the paint. I learned about perspective and composition and all that. And I really enjoyed working with the paints,
so
the oils.
Was that your first time of brushwork? I mean, so you got thrown to the wolves.
Well, my grandmother gave me one of those color by number things, the little paintings you color by number. And that was really the first time I'd ever really used oil paint. And my mom said, okay, well, you've got a natural knack. And so she enrolled me in the class. Okay. And so I went from there. And once I learned the techniques of painting with that, I kind of was self-taught. And I learned how to do watercolor and gouache and poster paint, all that tempera paint and different things. And from there, later on, I went to art school. I went to Cal State Long Beach, and I got my degree in illustration.
So was there any artist that you kind of mimicked? Everybody kind of follows somebody when they're first starting.
There's a lot. I learned a lot, and I was a fan. When I was in high school, my mom took me to a art show at LA County Museum of Art. It was all the Impressionists, all the masters. So I was inspired by Monet. I loved Monet's work. And so when I was in high school, I started doing Monet knockoffs. I had full-size oil paintings of Monet. I did one of my favorites is Woman in a Garden. And I have that hanging in my bedroom now. It's hanging right over my husband and I have it right over our bed. And so I got hired. Some people saw, you can do it. I want one, in my house. Can you do a Monet? I like this. Oh yeah, sure. So I did a few of those. And I was also a fan of science fiction and fantasy work. And H.R. Geiger was one of my favorites. I loved Olivia and Sorayama, beautiful airbrush work. And that's really when I started to get into the science fiction and fantasy type art.
Okay. So now you're where you are. So when you're in the automotive world now, that's kind of, when did it go sideways and get into the car stuff? How did that happen?
So when I was doing the science fiction fantasy stuff, I got a back cover of Heavy Metal magazine. I was just submitting art to anybody and anybody, and so Heavy Metal saw my work, and I did a portrait of Julie Strain. And she was married to Kevin Eastman, who was the owner of Heavy Metal magazine, publisher owner. And of course, everybody wanted to do portraits of Julie. So I did this beautiful, she had a great profile. So I did this profile with her hair flowing back. And so they contacted me and said, we want to put this on our cover, on the back cover. And I said, wow, okay, great. So through the course of that kind of thing, I met somebody who wanted to do an article about me and my work. And he said, just off the top of his head, he said, have you ever done any custom painting on cars, motorcycles? I said, no, never had. And he said, well, I know somebody in Stanton who's got a bike shop, and he's always looking for airbrush artists. And I said, okay. And so he gave me his contact information. I went down to the shop, and he had somebody doing some work for him at the time. And he showed me how to use the urethane paints, because I hadn't used that before. You have to use the reducers and the thinners and all that stuff. And I picked it up quick. And from there, I started working at the shop. And when you work at one shop, your name gets around, right? So you go from one shop to another, worked for Santini Paints, worked for Vale's Custom Colors, and some different places along the way. Started with motorcycles, helmets, worked on boats, cars, just anything and everything. So all kinds of custom guitars, just all kinds of stuff. For years I did this. So it was just, you never know. It's always something different. Got to meet a lot of really cool people and work with some really interesting people. And from there, I got into doing full-scale murals just as kind of a fluke. So one day my phone rings, and Kenny Youngblood, who's a very famous artist and automotive illustrator, contacted me. And I'd heard that he was working on a project at the Lions Drag Strip Museum. And so I knew that there was going to be a lot of mural work and stuff there. And I figured, they got Kenny doing that. That'd be great. It's going to be fantastic, So one day that my phone rings, and Kenny goes, how busy are you right now? And I said, no, not terribly busy. He goes, how'd you like to come down here and help me with this mural project? I was just like, Kenny Youngblood, he's, one of the icons in the business, and he wants me to help him out. And I said, okay. I'd never worked on anything quite that big at the time. And so I was kind of, my heart started racing, like, oh gosh, I hope I'm good enough, And I expected to see a lot of stuff on the walls when I walked in. And I came in, and it was just a big, huge warehouse, blank spaces. And there was Kenny up on a scissor lift, the upper right-hand corner of this one wall, just barely doing like a railing that was supposed to be part of where the Lions drag strip had a bridge that went across. So I'm looking around the room, and I'm seeing all this blank space, and I'm like, wow, this is going to be a big job. So I knew I was going to be there for a while. But it was just, it's been incredible job to do. And I learned a lot too. It's kind of like I got to go back into my roots, my early painting with a brush, no airbrush on this job, all rollers and brushes for everything, every bit of it, all blended with brush. So it was kind of refreshing to kind of take a break from the airbrush work and go back to my roots, so to speak, and get back into the paint and the blending and all that, and color matching. Did it take a while
to get back in the swing of the old things, or was it like the old bicycle?
It's kind of like, it is like riding a bicycle, and doing automotive stuff on such a large scale. You learn other little tricks as you go, and you're kind of innovating as you go too. It's like, I think I know an easier way to do that. No, I think I'll do something a little different this time, and whatever. And so it's been fun. And so from there, now it's like more people are starting to realize, like, wow, she does mural stuff too. So it's opened up a whole new genre for me.
Well, so like this behind us, this is a huge project of yours.
Yeah.
So how long did how did this even come about?
So this project came about when belongs to Kent Browning. This is Kent Browning's automotive collection, and he went to the Lions Museum and he saw the mural work, so he's got a big warehouse also with a car collection, and he wanted something on. He had a big blank wall. He wanted something on his wall. So he said, wow, how about a mural? It's like you can put signs and posters and neon lights and stuff up, but having a mural, that just sets a scene. It's almost like a backdrop. So he hired me, and he had an idea. He had an artist rendering of the 1954 Motorama. And he said, so he showed me a picture. He said, can you reproduce this on a wall? I said, yeah, I can do that. So that's how that ended up. And it took me 10 months to do it. But I was really happy, and I know he's really pleased with the result too.
What all have you covered as far as magazine work?
Well, I did some stuff. Well, besides the heavy metal magazine, I was in Auto Art magazine, Auto Graphics. I did a little bit of modeling in my younger years, so I used that to my advantage also, because they would do an article about me and they'd show my art also. So I was in Penthouse, Holland. They did a couple pages in there, and a couple of other different things. Savage Tattoo was even though I don't have tattoos, they like my work, so they put several pictures of my art in there as inspiration, I guess, for tattoo artists. And out of the blue, years ago, I had somebody contact me, and he said, "I liked your work so much, I had to tattoo it on my chest."
Nice.
He tattooed one of my science fiction pieces on his chest. It's like a woman, and she's kind of like crouched over, and the name of it is called Gargoyle. So she's got like these metal spikes kind of coming out of her back, and it's just very Art Deco looking, and whoever did the tattoo did a really good job on it. Actually, it looked really, really good. I don't think I would tattoo it on my skin, but it was flattering that somebody liked it.
Somebody decided to do it.
Yeah.
So have you done any TV stuff over the years? You've kind of had your hands in a little bit of everything.
Yeah, actually, back in 2005, I did an episode of Rides. The same production company that did Overholland did a show called Rides, and it was a paint competition between me and Mike LaValle. That's how they had it set up. They call it a competition, but
right.
I was just like floored that they would ask me to go up against someone like Mike LaValle, because he was the guy that was credited with doing the realistic flames. He kind of made that a thing, and everybody started doing the true fire look on their hot rods and motorcycles and that. And I'd known Mike for a little while, and I met him at the SEMA show. And so that's how the whole thing came together. So Mike was there, and Bud Brutzman, from the production company, contacted me, and he's like, "Oh," he goes, "you do airbrush work," and he goes, "and you're a female," and he goes, "You know Mike?" And I go, "Oh yeah, I just met Mike. He's really cool." He goes, "How about if we do a show between the two of you?" So I was just like floored, and I'm like, I could feel my heart like jumping out of my chest, going, "Really? You want me to go up against Mike LaValle?" And so I talked to Mike, and Mike was he totally put me at ease. He was just he goes, "You have to do it." He goes, "If they want you to do this, you can't say no, because it'll put you on the map."
Sure.
And he was really, really cool about that. And he's just like, just relax and do what you do and that. And so we both had Pontiac G6s. So he did his up in Washington, and I did mine at a shop called Kelly and Son. And so I didn't know what he was doing on his car, and he didn't know what I was doing. It's kind of like a secret thing. And then at the end, they did the big reveal on the beach, at Venice Beach. So he brought his car down, they put my car out, and the two cars were on the sand, and we got to see each other's work for the first time. So that was fun.
That's pretty awesome.
That was fun.
So how long did you guys work on them?
That project, all in all, it took about, I think it was over 2 months worth of work, because they would come down and film me for a while, and then they'd go up and film him. And I could only do one part of the car at the time, because they wanted to capture everything. They wanted to see the progress with, while the cameras are rolling. So I would do like one side of the car, which you don't ever do it like that. So I'd do one side of the car, and then when they were done, then I'd rush and, do the other side of the car to match and that. And so it dragged on longer than just if I could just paint the whole thing,
So since we're kind of bouncing back and forth, talking about your life, since it's kind of a hard thing to do. You're trying to remember different parts of your life. Right. So when you were talking about when you were younger, and I'll kind of let you take over here.
Okay. So, when I was a kid, the King Tut exhibit came to town. It came to LA. It was like in the 70s. And that, I just instantly fell in love with Egyptology and the whole King Tut thing. It was a big deal. And seeing the gold mask, in person, and just the intricacy of the work, especially for when they did it, so many thousands of years old, and seeing something that old, all done by hand, and it was just awe-inspiring. And I was, I think, in 5th grade when this happened, and so I was drawing King Tut stuff like crazy, Egypt, anything, and I got every book on the subject I could get, and I was just drawing tons and tons and tons of King Tut stuff and Egyptian stuff, and I loved it. I just fell in love with that. And I think I like the structuredness of their art, because later in life, I did my science fiction fantasy work kind of reflected that too. It was kind of like the Art Deco, Art Moderne sort of look.
So, okay, so we're going to go, that's back. Let's look forward. So you're doing stuff for Rick down at the museum. You've done this. What else do you want to do as far as this goes? Do you want to keep doing the walls? Is this something you kind of enjoy?
I do enjoy doing it. And I don't do outdoor murals, for one thing. I don't really like being out in the sun and that indoor work. It's also protected. I don't have to worry about somebody with a spray can coming in and, making a mess of it. It breaks my heart when I see so many beautiful pieces of work around LA, beautiful murals that people put their heart and soul in, and it gets defaced, and for what, that breaks my heart to see that. But as far as the future goes, I'm open to all kinds of ideas and anything new. I'm open to it, but the mural work, I really do enjoy doing it. And I still do the custom work too.
Well, that's what, because, we've worked on boats and we've worked on cars together over the years. And this is a whole different realm here. I mean, you're different media. You're no longer working with, your things or,
right.
Enamels or what you're playing with. House paint,
right?
Pretty much.
Yeah,
so it doesn't smell as bad. You don't get the buzz going.
Exactly. Which I kind of like that. It's just water-based paint, and there's no fumes, and it's easy to work with, and I like that part of it. It's very easy to work with.
Okay, so you've done work for Kent here, and you've done work for Rick. Is there any celebrities that we'll just call them celebrities?
Okay.
That you've done work for that you can go, yeah, I did work for this guy who's kind of known. Is there?
Yeah. I did some work for Matt LeBlanc, and I met him by accident, kind of. I was working at a little motorcycle painting shop in Gardena, and the guy I was working for, he knew Matt LeBlanc through somebody else and a previous customer of his. And Matt came in, he just wanted a basic paint job done on his bike. So my friend Jim called me up and he said, hey, Matt's going to come by my shop. Maybe you should be here, do some airbrushing so we can see what you do. Maybe you'll get some work out of it. So I'm like, okay. So I was working on a helmet, and Matt was kind of a shy guy. Not like the Joey character that you would think, kind of shy at first. And so I just kept to myself. I didn't go running over to him. I didn't do any of that. So he came in and he was really quiet, and he kind of saw me across the room. He saw that I was painting. Well, so he and Jim were doing their business, and he kept kind of looking over and watching me paint. So he comes over and to see what I was doing. And so I, introduced myself to him and that. And he said, hey, he goes, could you do an Italian flag on the top of my Ducati gas tank? And I said, yeah, sure. Just want a little flag, wavy little flag on the top of his tank. So I did that, and he was happy with it. And he came back and he said, could you do a helmet for me? And I said, yeah, I'd love to. So I did a helmet it has like a wavy Italian flag on one side and the American flag on the other side and that. And then he said, have you ever done murals? And this was before I had done the stuff that I'm doing now. And I said, yeah, I can do murals. So he invited me to come to his home at the time and worked in his garage. He was, Ducati. He has a big car collection, also motorcycles. So I did some logos on his garage wall, Ducati and Porsche, Ferrari. I did a large, big Ferrari logo on his garage and Porsche logo. He's a Porsche guy now more than Ferrari. So I got to do a couple of things for him, and that was fun. It was fun to do.
That lasted for a little while then.
Yeah.
So the same type of deal where you're playing with house paint, so you at least keep the mess down. And
Right. I was careful to keep everything very clean. There was not one speck of paint anywhere. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So can you think of any other work that comes to your brain that just kind of, you were just amazed to be part of? Like the Lavalley competition. That's pretty cool. That
was very cool.
Anything else like that you've done that you went, wow, I get to do something kind of amazing? Because we know about this.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you haven't really talked about yet that you've done that was a big part of your life?
I did some work for Easy Riders magazine. That was when I was still doing the illustrative type stuff.
Okay.
That was before I started the custom painting. That was like right on the cusp, right before. I had my art on display at the Makuni Calendar Show, it used to be at the Santa Monica Airport back before it went to Long Beach. And Keith Ball was the editor of Easy Riders magazine at the time. And so he saw my work and he said, do you want to do some work for Easy Riders? And I said, well, yeah, sure. You know, everybody's used to seeing Dave Mann stuff in there, but I did a few things for them too, and some t-shirt designs and stuff for
well, that's pretty cool.
Years ago.
I didn't know that.
Years ago.
Because they like artwork. A lot of the motorcycle guys, they like artwork.
Yeah, I painted a lot of bike stuff over the years. A lot of bikes and helmets and stuff. I don't know. I've lost count.
I didn't realize that was one of your things, was doing motorcycles.
That kept me busy for quite a number of years before I got into the automotive stuff.
So helmets and tanks and just
helmets and
motorcycle
tanks,
parts.
full, dressers, all kinds of
Were
stuff.
you doing all the paint work or just the airbrush?
I do the artwork
stuff.
the airbrush. Yeah. I don't do the base coating and the clear coating and all the prep work.
That's
Yeah.
You don't have to get all the dirty stuff done. Somebody else can get all the messy stuff. You can do the fun stuff.
But I do color sanding and that from time to time. I've for my own projects, I know how to do that sort of stuff. So I don't mind getting my hands dirty.
You gotta prep it and do all
Yes, I do the
fun
prep
stuff.
work.
Okay.
Yes, I have done the prep work.
So you do a lot of motorcycle stuff. Are you into riding motorcycles? Is that anything that's been part of your life?
My husband used to ride, and so I was a backseat rider.
Okay.
But we used to go all over the place.
So you like motorcycles, huh?
I do. Yeah,
All right.
yeah, I did.
So do you paint any of your own projects, or do you not bother?
I don't bother, and I've heard that from a number of people that paint. They're like, well, why don't you put flames on your Mustang? Or why don't you? Like, no, I like it stock, and I'd get tired of looking at it. Yeah, you don't want to drive around really with your own stuff on your car. Not usually.
I like my stuff.
I know. Well, your stuff is beautiful.
But see, like where I like fixing my cars up. Do you have stuff around your house of your work? See,
I do. Yeah.
I don't have anything that's
okay.
in my house at all.
Okay. I have an office upstairs, my office, where I store all my paintings and stuff. And I've got a few pieces up on the walls up there, and a couple of paintings in the living room and that. A few things here and there. So
when you were a little girl and you were doing your artwork, is there anything else that everybody kind of has their things. I was into reading and I did a lot of artwork and I loved cars, and that was kind of my thing. What else was part of your world besides art?
Well, I was kind of atypical. I was not like a tomboy, but I played with toy cars and trains way more than with dolls. I was not one of the Barbie doll girls.
Okay.
I had one Barbie doll that I really didn't play with. My grandmother gave her to me, but I was into cars, trains. I had a toy train that I liked to play with. I liked building models when I was like in my younger, like 11 years old. Yeah, 11, 12 years old. I was building little, the plastic car models. I hung out at the hobby shop a lot. And I was an only child too, so I have no brothers and sisters. So I had a lot of free time. I had friends and stuff that I played with, but a lot of time I was just in my room, drawing, painting, building car models. I even created a lot of stuff of my own. I was a big Star Wars fan, crazy Star Wars fan when I was a kid. So that was a big deal, So I would actually make out of cardboard and paper stuff. I built a lot of like Star Wars-ish kind of little vehicles and things because originally I thought, I want to get into special effects. I fell in love with that movie so much. I was like, well, that's it. I want to get into movies and I want to be a special effects person and I want to build models and get all into that sort of stuff. And that kind of stagnated, it's like you kind of you get older, when you're a kid, you think one way. And when you get older, you change your mind in that. And I wasn't really, by the time I got into high school and college, I wasn't really into going into film school because I would have had to go into film school for that. And at that point, I was kind of transitioning again, like, what really am I going to do? I didn't really know. It's like, I think I want to be an illustrator. So I went to Cal State Long Beach and I got my degree in illustration.
All right.
And at the time, I was right on the cusp when really hands-on, graphic art and illustration, it was all going to photography and computer-generated stuff. And I didn't want to do stuff on a computer. I like getting my hands in the paint. I like to use my hands, and I like to actually make things. I want something tangible. And so that's why I went that route. And I figured, well, I'm going to do commercial art. And I got into the custom painting because that was still one of the few things that you could do and make money doing it, actual getting into the paint, working with paint, and make a living doing it.
So you never get into the computer stuff at all? Never went that route?
No. I mean, I can barely use it well enough to do my social media, and emails. That's really all I use a computer for. I don't have any desire to do computer work, computer graphics. I don't know why. I just sitting in front of a screen all day. It's kind of hard on my eyes too. I prefer just being able to do something on
this
a wall.
This isn't easier on your eyes.
It is. So I think it is. Let me just say, I enjoy this a lot more.
All right.
This is much more enjoyable and fulfilling to me. I feel a sense of when I get done with a mural, and I can stand back and take a deep breath and go, okay, I accomplished something. I did this. It's a great feeling of accomplishment to do it, and that's what keeps me going.
So you're younger and you're trying different things. Mom's got you into oil painting and different things. Yeah. Who was inspired? Somebody had to inspire you when you were younger, because your dad was an artist.
My dad.
So
yeah.
So did you watch a lot of what he was doing? Is that?
I did. I mean, he never became a professional artist. He didn't make money doing it, but he enjoyed what he did, and he did oils and not so much watercolors, but like chalk and charcoal type stuff, pen and ink. And so he would do portraits of me and my mother, and I'd watch him paint, and and that inspired me. I kind of picked up from him the eye-hand coordination and all that. And he did some pretty impressive stuff. And I was like, well, if he can do that, maybe that's something for me to try, And but oddly enough, it's like he wasn't the one that really encouraged me to do the art, because he thought I would just be a starving artist. He's just like, oh, why don't you go get a real job? You're just going to be a starving artist selling your paintings on a street corner. That was always the way
right.
people, that was the way people thought of artists back then.
Right.
And, but my mom was like, if you're good at it, keep doing it. So she's the one that got me into took me to those private oil painting classes. And that.
She kept pushing you.
She did. Yeah. She was always very good at encouraging me to do that. But it wasn't really until later when I was in college, when I met my future husband there, who really encouraged me. He was the one that was really my biggest supporter and really pushed me into keeping up with it and keep going. And he's the one that really encouraged me to do the custom painting. He's like, yeah, why don't you go paint bikes? Go do something different. Go make some money doing what you do. And so I'm like, okay.
So is he still your biggest cheerleader?
Yeah, he really is. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So what does he think of these?
He's like blown away by it. Yeah, he loves it. Every time he comes in here, he always has a camera. He takes pictures. So like on my social media pages, my husband's the one that shoots all my photography.
So does he come in and kind of watch the progress of wherever you're at, or does he wait a while? Wait till he sees which...
Well, he'll come in and he'll shoot pictures of me. Like now, as I'm working at the Lions Museum, he'll come in from time to time, and he always has his camera, and he takes pictures of me working.
Okay.
So you can see the progression of things as it goes. Yeah, he's been pretty blown away by how far I've come and the things, the people that I meet, meeting people like Kent and Rick Lorenzen and that. And so, yeah, it's always, I never know who I'm going to meet next. That's a fun part about it.
Oh, absolutely.
That's a fun part about it. Yeah. Yeah, you know that.
I know that. It's so funny as you kind of get, it sounds silly, you almost get jaded to it. When we come in here, and I'd never been down here before, and I could be going, wow, but I'm kind of getting used to it. You walk in and it's like, all right, well, what's this guy have? There's so many private collections that are just amazing.
I know.
It's just a building. I've been by it a million times, had no idea what was actually going on inside of there. And it's great. I love it. I love that guys preserve history like that.
Right.
They want to be part of what was there, and they don't want it to go anywhere. And you get to be like this. This is a World's Fair picture. Can we reproduce it? Yeah, we can reproduce it. So that's great. And you get to be part of it.
Yeah, and by doing this, you hear different people talk about different car collections and that there's lots of hidden gems out there. I never realized how many private car collections there are in Southern California. They're all over the place.
All over the place.
And they're quietly hidden away in warehouses that you would never know that they're there.
And so like here, you get to be part of it.
Yeah.
Here, Rex, all of a sudden you walk in, you go, wow.
I'm so honored. It's an honor, that somebody thinks that highly of my work, that they want to put it in the middle of their car collection,
So you had Dad, Dad, whether he was inspiring you or not, watching him inspired you. Mm-hmm. And you were the odd kid, the odd girl on the block that was playing with models and Hot Wheels and that kind of stuff.
Right.
Anybody else in the family that kind of kickstarted you?
My uncle was a big car guy. So his whole thing was restoring Cadillacs, Cadillac convertibles. That was his thing. So he always had a work in progress. And I could watch, I'd from time to time, I'd go over to my grandmother's house and see him working on something in the garage. And I'd see it from the ground up, he was friends with one of the instructors over at El Camino College at the time, and where he was doing the automotive. They had a whole automotive department there. So he would go there to paint the cars and that. And I'd see this transformation from a rust bucket, what he'd call a Flintstone mobile. Usually didn't have any floors in it. And he would build that thing from the ground up until it was just pristine, a work of art. And then he would sell them in it. So there was that. And, also, as far as the custom culture, my husband was the one that really got me turned on to that, because up until then, before I met him, even though my dad liked cars and stuff, he never took me to the drag races. We didn't go to anything automotive related, car shows, drag races, all that kind of stuff. That came later. So my husband got me into that. So we went to all the car shows, even still car shows, drag races, the motorcycle races. Up in Monterey, they used to have the super bike races up there and all that.
Oh, yeah.
For years, we did that. We went up to Monterey every year for quite a long time. And so I was always just around. Everything was motorsports related. And where we lived, we weren't far from Ascot either. And Ascot was the first official date that we went on. And we jumped on the back of his bike and we went to Ascot, and we're sitting by turn one and we're having clumps of mud thrown at us and
thrown all over you.
So so he's the one that really opened up that world for me. I had never been part of any of that until I started dating him. So
now your life is ruined. Welcome.
Yes, it is.
Welcome.
Yes. Yeah.
So now it just comes down to the future. You have any goals of something you want to accomplish you haven't done yet?
That's interesting. I have a hard time looking into the future because no telling what the future holds. I never had any idea. 10 years ago, I had no idea that I'd be painting big giant wall murals. I preferred, there was a certain size that I was comfortable with.
Right.
Anything bigger than 30 by 40 seemed huge to me.
Well, okay, so we'll just say a goal. You look at future goals. Is there something you want to do that you haven't done yet?
Well, I have not. I've had a couple group gallery shows, but I have never had a gallery show of just my own work. And I think that, someday down the line, if that opportunity comes up, I would love to have a gallery show of my work. But I did do a couple group shows with other artists.
Did you have fun doing those?
Those were fun. Because you get a lot of people, different people seeing your work in one venue, which is kind of nice. Now with the internet, things have changed a lot. People do go online more than go to galleries. People buy art right off of the internet,
See, I still like galleries.
I do too.
I like that more that touchy feely. Even if you don't touch it, you're part of it.
Yeah. It's one thing to see it on a screen, but to see it up close and in person, it's a whole different thing.
Right. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Yvonne.
Thank you.
It's great talking to you.
You too. Awesome.